Meanwhile, let's bring in Senator Rand Paul right now. Senator Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, you with a medical background, you could have been a great help. What could you tell us? Where were you when the shooting happened?
I was in the right field batting cage outside of the field, and the first thing we heard was a loud gunshot. And, you know, I grew up in the South, so it wasn't that uncommon to hear like a shotgun go off, a random shotgun. And then we got to thinking, well, gosh, we're not really in the South and we're actually in the city. But then before we could think too much, but nobody really dove for the dirt with the first shot. Yeah. The first shot, there was a couple of seconds, but then there was a succession of maybe 5 or 10 shots in a row, and people began to drop. Representative Scalise was out at second base, probably about 50 yards from me. But there was in between he and I about a 10-foot fence, so there was no way for me to get to where he was. And it was also sort of a killing field. It was wide open with an AR-15. Then there's probably a burst of 50 to 60 shots.
Senator, why do you say it's an AR-15?
It just people said the sound of it sounded like it, and it did appear that he had a rifle. But
so you saw the gunman?
Vaguely. I mean, I'm probably 75 yards. I was lucky in the sense that I had just been at home plate taking batting practice, and I was walking out, and sometimes Jeff Flake goes home with me, and he said, can I have a ride? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do one more turn in the batting cage. So I went to the batting cage, which turns out to be the farthest point from where the shooter was. I was 20 steps from him, but I was just the luck of happenstance. I happened to be walking away, and it was at the farthest point. So when the gunshots came in rapid succession, there was a big oak tree right behind the batting cage. I thought the shots were coming from the third base side, but it took, you know, another 10 or 20 shots until I could, and then I was still guessing that they were coming from that side. I didn't know which side of the tree to stand on. Wow. And so inside the right field fence, a couple of staffers have raced around the track, but there's a 20-foot fence. I can't get to them. They can't get to me. But at some point, you've got to decide whether to stay, and if the gunman advances, you have no chance, or you got to run. So one of the staffers quickly climbed in about 2 seconds, climbed the 20-foot fence, hopped down beside me, and we're behind the tree. Still gunshots are, you know, ringing out. Representative Scalise goes down. We can see him, but we can't get to him because really nobody could get to him until the gunman was brought down. There's probably 5 or 10 congressmen hunkering down in the first base dugout. The gunman's in behind the third base dugout.
And where was Mr. Scalise's security detail?
They're usually in a black SUV somewhere around the field. And so at this point, the gunman's reloading. There's probably been 50 or 60 shots. We can't really see him that well, but my gut feeling was I've got to decide to stay or run. And at this point, I think he's advancing towards us. People are moving behind different buildings. Most everybody's closer to the gunman than I am. I'm at a distant point. But the staffer that made it over the fence, we were trying to decide to stay or go. And at this point, you know, the Capitol Police began returning fire. I do believe that without the Capitol Hill Police, it would have been a massacre. We had no defense.
Senator,
we had no defense.
Senator,
we had no defense at all.
Do you have security?
I think it's best not to talk about it, other than I can say that I think we're lucky that Scalise was there because this was his security detail. Without them, it would have been a massacre. There would have been no stopping this guy. And we were like sitting ducks. We had no place to run. When you're inside, see, fortunately, I was outside the ball field in the batting cage. Everybody else was inside the fence in the dugout. So you got a wide open field. It's a killing field, and they've got to run to an exit. So they were hunkering down. The dugouts are somewhat submerged. So they're below ground level, trying not to get shot, and they've got someone wounded in there, and they're applying a tourniquet in the dugout, and then they're trying then to make a decision also, do we stay or do we go? And it's a difficult decision because, you know, when you've got automatic weapon fire, semi-automatic weapon fire coming towards you, you got to decide whether to stay or go. At some point when we felt like he might be advancing towards us, we decided we were defenseless to make a run for it. We ran out the right field fence and climbed a couple fences. a staffer was driving by in a car, and we actually got in the car of a staffer who took us to the
Well,
Capitol.
no one thought that this could happen at this time of the morning and in this location. Senator, have there been any security concerns leading up to this? Because, of course, this was all in preparation for this big baseball game that's supposed to happen tomorrow night at the Nat Stadium. This has happened for years and years, sort of a light-hearted moment in a time that is so politicized between Republicans and Democrats. Has there ever been any sort of security concern with just practicing out in these fields before?
The sad irony of this is it's one of the best bipartisan things we do in Congress. It's allowed me to meet Democrat members, House members. We joke and we carry on. We raise over $500,000 for Literacy Project and the Boys and Girls Club of D.C. It's one of the good things we do. Everybody complains that we don't get along, and if this turns out to be politically motivated, it's sort of a sad day that they're going to shoot the people who actually are doing a bipartisan game for charity.
Unbelievable.
And it just ruins it for everything, because, you know, we're going to have to be locked down and have more protection, and we just become, I don't know, it's just sad that this is what it's come to.
Yeah. More walled off than ever. But let's just talk about this incident in particular, Senator. I know you're just putting it together, and you're remarkably calm. That's just your demeanor, too, and especially because you grew up around guns. Maybe you're more accustomed to the sound than most, than, like, let's say I would be. So you're saying you heard first one shot, then you heard a series of shots. Overall, how many shots can you say roughly that you heard?
At least 50 or 60 shots.
House?
And then,
okay, go ahead.
And then I would say, then we started hearing a different report, a gunshot report, and that was from the pistols of the Capitol Hill Police. And like I say, I can't say enough about their bravery. I think both were shot. I hope they survive, but without them, nobody would have survived.
Did you see who took down the gunman ultimately?
I wasn't close enough. I mean, like I say, I was the luck of happenstance. I was at the farthest possible point from the gunshots when they started, because I would have gone to the batting cage.
Can you tell us how soon you had backup out there to back up the two Capitol policemen who were there, because Majority Whip Steve Scalise had the security with him?
You know, I don't blame whoever was coming. It just would have taken too long. Sure. There wouldn't have been anybody left.
But how
the
soon
Capitol Hill Police?
How soon until they had backup there?
You know, the gunshots were going on for at least maybe 10 minutes. But the thing is nobody was still there. The only people there were Capitol Hill Police, and we are so lucky they were there, because they saved everybody's life by being there.
Yeah.